Howdy y'all, and welcome back to another build spotlight. I know it's been a while, but let's dive right into it. Now, if you know me, you know that my favorite mythic is Hero. It's been that way all the way back to 1.19, where I fell in love with the Rage Hero build. And imagine my disappointment where, after going on hiatus for a while, I come back and Rage Hero is practically unusable. I came back, I tried to make it work. I'm pretty sure I ended up with a build that did like 14,000 uppercuts with Rage active or something stupid and unusable like that. It's not near the former glory that was the overpowered, ridiculous, crazy mess that Rage Hero used to be. And to be honest, that's a good thing. But what that did mean is that I somewhat lost faith in Hero after returning, and I kind of disregarded. Well, I almost just like lost the will to play the game because my favorite weapon had gotten what I thought nerfed into the ground. But I did a bit more building, and I came up with a build that I liked. First things first, two things that I kind of had to come to grips with in order to make this build. First off, no more Rage. And that really hurt me because I really enjoyed Rage. I thought it was so cool that you were earth powdering an air mythic to make it do more damage, but to be honest, it's just not the meta, and it doesn't perform well in the meta in my opinion, even though it's way more gamer. But now we're going on to dodge boost, which I have no idea what whoever made dodge, whoever buffed it from being a reset on hit to being just always active. I don't know what they were smoking when they made that change, but it's just free freaking damage now. Like it's just like I know it has to like ramp up at the start of a fight, but like it's just free now. Like there's absolutely zero reason to use Rage over air powder now. Like there just isn't. And the second thing is, since the Savior Sacrifice nerf going from a 50% threshold, 50% buff to a 50% threshold, 30% buff, I don't know if it's worth building for it anymore. At least it does not feel like it. It kind of saddens me to say that, but I think that's just the best move. I think you can see it as just a nice buff, something to increase your tankiness, but me personally, I'm not going to continue to rely on it like I did in the Rage Hero days. So, yeah. So what? Actually, this is how I've been using Hero is a suggestion from Ingo, an experienced warrior player who helped me make this build. Actually, I made an original version of this build that wasn't as good, and he helped improve it. But anyways, the way he uses Hero is he will use Bash Boost, which honestly I thought was unusable before using it. And to be perfectly honest, I still am kind of that opinion, because due to server lag, or maybe it's just my computer lag, I don't know, but I miscast spells sometimes. It feels like even when I have the correct inputs, and sometimes I'll cast War Scream, and then that just for the rest of the fight, for the next 4 minutes, which is just, you're just not going to be able to use Bash Boost, and that's just terrible. It's also, against single targets, I don't know how useful it is. Now, you can, against like groups, it's ridiculous. It's an insanely strong buff. 50% damage on like a 3-second timer if you're hitting a group of enemies. Which is probably good in like Legendary Island, but I don't know how good it is versus the Eye. But that would have to, some testing would have to be done for that. But the way he uses it is it kind of mitigates those downsides where he will proc bash. He will not War Scream above 50% health, but if he does accidentally War Scream, he will try to get below half health, which honestly on hero is a bit of a titanic feat at times, just considering how ridiculously tanky you are with hero. And he will proc Savior Sacrifice, then try to get back above 50% so that he can use Bash Boost, and that's how I've been playing it. It seems to have worked pretty well for me. I don't know, it seems pretty good. But anyways, on to the actual build itself. Now, I don't know if I'm not going to claim that this is a 100% clear rate build like I did with my Archer build. I do say I have not died with it once in Legendary Island or the Eye, and I haven't really even gotten that close. I have died with it, like, in raids, like, 2 or 3 times out of, like, 20 runs. I don't really know. Point is, I very, very rarely die, and it's often completely my fault that I died, and not necessarily the build's fault, in my opinion. You can get ridiculously tanky in raids with this, especially with, like, Giant and Stonewalker. It's crazy. But let's look at the stats. First off, tankiness, my bread and butter, my favorite. You have a ridiculous, like, 200,000 effective HP with agility, and you have about 43,000 EHP with no agility, which is really good. I am very happy with that, and I think I have a hard time getting below half health with this build to proc Savior Sacrifice often. Like, during the only time I can reliably proc it is on the Eye, because I can literally tank eye lasers to get below half. In TCC, it's hard to take enough damage to proc Savior Sacrifice with this build, and for that reason I think it's exceedingly comfortable to use. Now, the damage for a hero build, for a mythic build, really, it's very low. You only have like 12,000 uppercut damage with War Scream, although with dodge boost and like courage, you're going to ramp that up like crazy. I think all buffed out with like dodge and courage. And oh, by the way, that's another thing, courage. I'm actually using powder specials with hero now, which, I mean, yeah. And sustain. I'm using sustain and courage with hero, which I never thought I would do, because I always thought I would be using Savior Sacrifice. But again, I don't know if Savior Sacrifice feels worth it enough to me to rely on now, so I'm actually using powder specials and sustain to supplement the build. But with dodge, you have about 18k uppercuts, and with courage alone, you have 19k uppercuts. With all buffs all going all at once, and that includes your bash buff, you're at like 35,000 damage and stuff like that. With dodge and courage, you're at like 25,000 damage, 25,000 uppercuts. So you have a high damage ceiling, but the damage itself starts off pretty low with this build, and I think understandably so, considering it has like 43,000 EHP without agility. And now for some other good stuff about the build. And by the way, the build itself is not reinventing the wheel. It's EHP boosters is all it is. It's SP armor, and for good reason, because I want to get a tanky build. And the accessories, just Black Catalyst for spell cost, Prowess for the SP, and Tenuto for the super slow. And by the way, apparently you need like a not perfect attack bonus Tenuto to get super slow with this build. But regardless, your mana, I don't think I had mana problems. Normally I have mana problems with builds, and that's normally because I don't build enough mana into my builds. Sue me. But I did not run out of mana once. I didn't even get close to running out of mana in the Eye fight, which I thought was cool, especially considering it's 1/2 costs. I don't know an LI, and I'm not going to watch 19 minutes of footage to figure out whether I got close to running out in LI, but personally speaking, it felt very good. And going on from that, we have 135% walk speed, very nice. And okay, for sustain, and like I was saying earlier, I never would have used sustain with something like Rage Hero, because Hero's just so ridiculously tanky. But Soulflare is being used here along with Tenuto, obviously, for the super slow, for sustain, and honestly, that's enough to keep me going. I very, very rarely run into problems where I'm at too low of health, and if you're at low health, it's not even too big of a problem because you're proccing Save Your Sacrifice. You also have Courage proc to hit multiple enemies to get yourself back up to health rapidly. Now, the only problem is for a comfortable build, especially a mythic build, you want it to feel nice. And unfortunately, this build does not have HP regen. And I actually spent the time to farm for an HPR armor tome for my warrior, and I got one of those. My current one, I only have one currently, and it's a 40 HPR one, but I haven't found it lacking. This build has plenty of sustain for me, and it feels great. That's all I can say about that. And that's really the reason I like this build, is it feels fantastic. It feels like I'm doing content fast. It feels like no matter what I'm doing, I'm being a help to my team, or I'm either in solo content, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not constantly having to be low health. And even if I am low health, I'm not as scared because I have Save or Sacrifice. I am being below half just means that I kill stuff faster and I die slower. And I get more EHP per lifesteal. So it just feels fantastic for all the content I've done it with, and the damage feels pretty nice, even though it's not the best damage possible. I feel like it's pretty good. Now, the one thing that really does bother me, since I come from Rage Hero, where if you didn't know, I was one of the contributors to finding out that elemental defenses were ignored defense, because my Rage Hero build would die to a single Eye Meteor, and I had no idea why. And the reason was elemental defenses, because it ignored armor or ignored defense, and so this build having slightly bad negative elemental defense, it's not even bad, it's just Earth and Thunder are slightly negative, and that's bothersome to me. But to be honest, I don't feel like I was ever in danger when using this build, so it's probably not that big of a deal. I am using 2 Earth 5 powders on my armor just to supplement that. Also, additionally for my dodge, I'm using tier 6 powders on all my armor. I've heard you don't need to, but I'm doing it anyways just because I can, so I'm going to. And now I guess let's look into actual viability of the build. How fast does it do content, and how does it do content? So for the eye, first off, a 4-minute 20 eye time, which upon receiving the eye time, I was absolutely ecstatic, because that's competitive with Orange Lily, I think, or at least my Orange Lily build, probably not like a ETW one or whatever, but I was ecstatic because that was my best warrior time by far in doing the eye. Never felt in danger during the fight, or really on a normal run. Honestly, to make this video, I kind of was a little more on edge, or lived a little bit more on the edge during the fight so that I could try to get a faster eye time. But if I was doing it normally, I would play it slightly safer, because during the video, you'll see I tank an eye laser, maybe twice, maybe only once, but importantly, this build can tank an eye laser, and I do intentionally sometimes just to get below half health to get Save or Sacrifice. So it's a bit crazy. And anyways, 4-minute 20 I feel is a very, very respectable eye time, and I really like that, especially with since you don't really have the fear of death. A lie, is also nice, which, to my surprise, I'm pretty sure this beats my pre 1.20, or maybe even my 1.20 hero time when it was like 30% threshold 50 boost or 50% threshold 50 boost. I think that was like 25 minutes, 27 minutes, something like that. This was a 19-minute Legendary Island time, which I know, like, there's some builds that can do it in like freaking 13 minutes and 12 minutes, and those are archer builds and they're ridiculous, but 19 minutes feels pretty nice to me. on a warrior spell build. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but that feels very nice to me. Very nice for this build. Especially since I don't think I ever had a time in my doing Legendary Island where I ever felt in danger. I think I very rarely even went under half health. I think the only time I actually took like non-trivial damage was with like Dr. Legendary, maybe a little bit with Cybele, but Cybele has enough minions that I could just heal back up off of them. So I felt pretty good in Legendary Island. Overall, like, I'm very impressed with this build, and I really enjoy it, and I really want to share it. And that's pretty much it for the build. I'm ecstatic that I found a build that I genuinely enjoy for Hero. It puts faith back into Hero for me, and I do wish that Hero went back to 30% threshold, 50% buff. It felt, to me at least, it felt somewhat balanced at that point, because you're taking a risk by being at that health to do more damage and such, but, you know, whatever, it's fine. The current version is pretty nice, and Savior Sacrifice is a nice bonus to me, even if I'm not using it the same way that I was. And honestly, I enjoy the playstyle more now, because I'm actually using Sustain in the build, and it feels much safer than my previous Rage Hero build, even if my previous Rage Hero build was better. This feels safer, this feels nicer to me, and it feels way more quality of life. But anyways, thank you for listening, and stay tuned. I'm hopefully going to make more videos. And have a good one.